Good evening. My name is Matthew Kemi, an expert in Microsoft Excel. Now today, I just want to show you how to do nesting of functions in Microsoft Excel. So I'll share the data. Now, before we do the actual nesting, I just want us to understand our data. So we have, I'll illustrate using this particular data. So we have some marks for some students. So we have the theory marks, which is out of 100%. We have the practical marks, which is also out of 100%. And then, so what we will do, we'll convert both theory and practical to out of 50, both of them. So and then when we talk of weighting on this other column, we are saying weighting, we are adding what we have converted to out of 50. That is the theory, and the practical, which is out of 50. So we get the weighted mark. And then, of course, we make some decision by declaring whether student Mary, like for instance, have achieved competence or not yet competent. So in this case, so what we will do, our first step is actually to calculate the theory, which is out of 50. So at the bottom of our table, we have the ratio for conversion. When we are converting it out of 50, we need to multiply by 0.5. Then our pass mark here, our pass mark is 40. So this one I'll explain later on as we proceed. Now, to get the marks for all these students out of 50, and then what we are supposed to do, I'll simply calculate for one of the students, and then the rest we can just drag down like that. So what we'll do, in this case, I'll say an equal sign, since we want to do some calculation. So I'll proceed by an equal sign. So I'll take this, which is theory, because I want to convert theory out of 50. So for Mary, I'll take 90 times the multiplier, which is 0.5. And then I hit on my keyboard, enter. So Mary add 100%, 90% in theory. And then when you now convert, Mary scored 45 out of 50. So for the second and the subsequent students, and then what we'll need to do, we will simply drag it down like that. We drag it down. But you realize that all these become zeros. So the reason is we are using relative reference in Excel. So maybe if you have not subscribed to my videos, you'll subscribe to my other video where I actually illustrated on the relative references and absolute references in Excel. But we will do some recap. So when you're inside here, when you are on this particular cell, so you see when I double click, so let me just click, when I double click like that on this particular cell, so you'll see that when you are in this position, it moves 1, 2. It moves 2 cells to the left for this particular cell. So that is why we are grasping 90, and then time is 0.5. When I double click the next cell, which is 0, so for you to be able to see, so when you double click on this, we have 70, which is what we needed. That is good. But then look at the ratio of conversion that has shifted downwards. So because we are using relative preference in Excel. So for us to make sure that this particular cell is fixed or it does not shift, then what we need to do, we'll convert this from relative reference to absolute reference. So what we need to do is we simply lock this one by using the dollar sign. Before I do that, maybe we can try next. So when you look at the next one, which is 0 for Peter, we have 78. It shifted 2 cells to the left, which is what we needed. But then it moves quite a number of cells downwards. So we need to close this one by using the dollar sign so that this one does not move. So that is why we have it has shifted to a blank cell. And in that case, blank cell, Excel is actually treating this one to be 0. So that is why it is saying C5, which is 78, times 0. Here, that is why we are getting 0. So for us to avoid that, then we need to come to our first cell here, and then we lock that one using the dollar sign symbol. We simply use the dollar sign symbol like that. So we are close using the dollar sign symbol, and then we hit enter. So you can now drag, and there you have your values. So like for instance, shop scored 13 out of 50, and etc. Now, when we want to calculate to apply the same criteria by doing the converting the practical to out of 50. So what we need to do is say an equal sign, and then we take the practical here for Mary. We will do for our first student, and so that is 86 multiplied by 0.5, and then you hit an enter button. So when you drag it down like that again, you will get these as zeros. So what you need to do, our first formula for this to be this value to be fixed here, or to make this value absolute, then we need actually to lock that one by using the dollar sign symbol. So we lock using the dollar sign like that, and then we hit our enter button, and then you simply drag it down like that. So we have all converted our theory, which was out of 100%, to out of 50. Now the weighted mark is actually we are adding practical, which is out of 50, and theory, which is out of 50. So for us to get the weighted mark, so what we need to do, since we are saying adding, we use a sum function in Excel. So equal sign sum like that. Then so I'll sum all these like that, 45 and 30. We're expecting that one to give us 88. Yeah, correct. That is 88. And then from there, we simply drag. So this one we don't need to look because we are dealing with only the relative references. So we have now a column of a weighted mark. So the last column now, the competency. This is now where we are introducing nesting of function inside Microsoft Excel. So when we talk of nesting, it's actually a function inside another function. So we will let us try using an if function. Now, for us to declare whether student Mary, Tom, or all these students are competent or not yet competent, we have three requirements or three conditions. Condition number one is that the weighted mark should be greater than or equal to 40. Condition number two, for theory and practical, Mary should score above 40 in theory and above 40 in practical. And then the weighted mark should also score above 40. So what we will do, since we have three conditions, we will use an if function. So equal sign if, like that. And then I'll hit this one on your formula bar. I'll hit an fx function like that. So I'll get an argument window. When you check this argument window, it says, what does if function do? This is an if function. So function argument, if function argument. So the first one is saying logical test. It is so logical test, meaning this particular if function is only testing one condition. From here we are saying it checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. It checks whether a condition. So that means an if function can only check for a single condition. So it can only check for this condition here, maybe weighted mark is greater than 40. But our requirement for this student to be either competent or not yet competent, he or she should surpass, the weighted mark should surpass 40, and the theory and the practical should also be greater than or equal to 40. So that is why using a mere if condition may not be appropriate. So that is why we are saying we do nest a function inside another function. We want to make this if function more powerful by placing another function inside an if function. So this is what we will do. We'll introduce an AND function. So instead of maybe putting a condition here, like for example, if it is greater than that, then what we will do, introduce an AND like that condition. Then from there, for us to get an argument window for an AND function, and then we simply, on our formula bar, so we simply click there, and there we have, this is an AND function argument. So when you check at this, it says we have logical 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 200, and you can test up to 255 conditions. But in our scenario, we only require 3 conditions. So what we will do, we'll introduce our condition number 1 by saying this weighted mark is greater than or equal to pass mark. So let me just, is greater than 40. Then I'll simply log this one by using the dollar sign. So for us to make this particular pass mark absolute, so I'll simply log that one by using the dollar sign like that. Then moving to the second condition, our second condition should theory for Mary. This is 90, should be greater than or equal to pass mark, which is 40. Then I also close pattern by using the dollar sign. And then the last condition is the practical. This practical here for Mary should be greater than or equal to pass mark, which is also 40. And then I simply log that one by using the dollar sign. So we have now all the 3 conditions. For the case of an AND function, when you check here, it says, it checks whether all the arguments are true. Condition number 1, Mary surpass 40. It has returned a true statement because his 88 is greater than 40, this one. And then the second condition, Mary scored 90% in theory. She also surpassed that, is why it is also returning a true. If all these are true, the 3 conditions are true, and then AND function returns a true statement here. If one of them was false, for instance, if one of these was false, then it will return a false here. But since all these are true, it will return a true. And then before I close that, I need to, maybe I can close that. And then before I hit an OK button, I'll have to return back to an if function here. When I return back to an if function, it says we have our logical test, all of them now. You see, all of them have been nested. It was possible because of an AND function that was nested inside an if function. Value if true, value if false. Now, what will happen here? We have 2 functions, an AND function and an if function, and inside if. So what will happen from here? All these will be evaluated. And we checked that since all these were true, AND functions evaluated true. And then this true that has been evaluated here, it hands over to the if function. So if function now will evaluate. You see? So and then from there, I can now return back to the if function by saying, value if true, we say the student is competent. And then finally, value if false, we say not yet competent, like that. Not yet competent. Good. So we have now completed that, and then we now hit the OK button. So you see now the first one, that is Mary. Mary, we are saying it is competent because he met all the 3 requirements. Then for the subsequent students, and then I'll simply drag it down like that. So we are getting, for instance, let me just look at this. For instance, Judas scored 38, which is below 40. And then that is in weighted mark. And then the practical at the 9, all of them are below 40. So that is why we are saying not yet competent. And then this other one, we are scored 32, which is below 40. And then these are also below, that is why we are saying not yet competent. So this is what we call nesting of functions inside nesting of functions. We have a function inside another function. So I hope this was helpful, and I requested that may you continue subscribing to my videos. Thank you very much, and may God bless you. Thank you.